Ready to go live. You are live. Hey, I'm live. Jeff's live. There we are. Welcome to
I'm live. You're live. You're live.
We are live. Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for May the 12th. Lee Hayward joined with Jeff Samataro, the Southern NH drummer, in the flesh, in the outdoors, enjoying the pre-summer warm. All right, gotta love it. So glad to have you joining in.
Beautiful day.
Oh, you got a nice little spot there. You know, like your own little private forest. It looks like.
Oh yeah, that's New Hampshire is all. It's very, very nice like that.
Nice. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get down and have a visit with you sometime over the summer. But
we'd love that.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. So myself and Jeff now, we are here going to be hanging out for the next hour, answering some Q&A for our Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat. So first off, I want to make sure that this is coming through loud and clear. So for those of you who are tuning in right now, if you can see us and hear us and it is coming through good on your end, please let us know by typing into the chat window. Just say loud and clear or something like that. And also let us know who's tuning in. Where are you tuning in from? Let us know. It's always nice to see because we get an international audience joining in for these video chats. Literally folks from all over the globe, from across North America, from Europe, the Middle East, over in throughout Asia, the Philippines, places like that. So it'd be interesting to know where's everyone's tuning in from today. So as you're popping onto our video chat, type into the chat window and let us know. Let's see, we have Kyle joining in. Happy Friday. Welcome, Kyle. It's loud and clear. All good. We have Bumbles Apple says loud and clear from the UK. Good stuff. Glad to have you joining in. Awesome. So this video chat, for those of you who are brand new, myself and Jeff are going to be hanging out here answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition, any specific challenges with regards to your workouts, with your building muscle, losing fat, anything with regards to your eating. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and we'll do the best we can to help you out. What are we on the move? Are we, Jeff?
Yeah, the internet's a little spotty outside, so I'm going to go inside.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Probably just that little bit of distance from the modem or the not giving you the connection. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, good thing I pay for that 1080p internet connection.
Can't even go outdoors and use it. Is that any better? All right.
It seems to be, yeah.
Seems to be, okay. Now, while we're waiting for people to type in their topics of discussion and questions and all that good stuff, one thing that I want to address is we're getting ready to launch another Lose Your Gut Challenge group. And this is the first Lose Your Gut Challenge that I've done now in 2023. So it's the Lose Your Gut Challenge Summer Shred. And the way these work is it's basically a 5-day intensive coaching program where you can join in, participate, and get a whole slew of value. I mean, what we're going to be doing is doing a deep dive into fat loss nutrition, hence the name Lose Your Gut. So it's really intensive, geared primarily across, geared primarily towards nutrition, but we do cover all the other elements of fitness in there as well. Like if you want to discuss training and strategies like that, we'll discuss that. Mostly it's nutrition because that's where most guys struggle. So it's a 5-day intensive coaching program geared around helping you to optimize your nutrition in a healthy and sustainable way where you can enjoy the process without feeling like you're on a diet. So lose the gut, still enjoy your life, and not feeling like you're depriving yourself, because that's the hardest part of fat loss, is just feeling like you're hungry, feeling like you're on a diet, and nobody wants to feel like they're on a diet. Right? I'm sure you can relate to that, Jeff. You don't want to feel like you're on a diet.
No, never. No.
But we've all done it. And don't get me wrong, diets work, right? Diets certainly do work. But the thing is, it's a short-term thing. And there is a time and a place for dieting. Like for a bodybuilder who's getting ready for a competition, or a fitness model getting ready for a photo shoot or something like that. Someone who wants to lose weight in the short term, yeah, you go on some unsustainable short-term calorie restriction diets, and yeah, it works in the short term. But if your diet has a start and an end date, the results are only temporary. So we need to focus on changing lifestyle habits if you want to achieve lasting results that is not just going to be for a few weeks or a few months, but something that's going to be for the rest of your life. And that's what the whole Lose Your Gut Challenge is about, is laying those foundations, laying those habits so that you not only lose the gut, but you enjoy the process and sustain it as a lifestyle. And if you want more information about that, I have a website, leehayward.com. Just go there. And the very first blog post on leehayward.com now goes into detail about the 5-day Lose Your Gut Challenge, what it is, how it works, and how you can register for it. So make sure to head on over and check that out. And for full transparency, should mention this, I'm not promising you're going to lose your gut in 5 days. It's called a 5-day Lose Your Gut Challenge, but let's be honest, nobody's losing their gut in 5 days. But it's a 5-day coaching program, 5 days of online training that will teach you what you need to do in order to lose your gut. That's the element here. So it's 5 days of virtual coaching. And a lot of people are probably going to be wondering, well, what's the catch? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing 5 days of virtual coaching? Because I know from running multiple of these challenges in the past that a small percentage of people who go through the Lose Your Gut Challenge will want to get more in-depth coaching afterwards. And if that is something you're interested in and you want to come on board with our advanced VIP coaching group with the Muscle After 40 Blueprint, then that is available and that's something we can discuss. But we want you to try it out first. So you get to try it out for free with the Lose Your Gut Challenge, see what it's all about, see what we have to offer, see what kind of results you can get. And if it's something that you want to pursue, then we can discuss that. And if not, then that's cool as well. So it's kind of like this, try it. If you like it, you can come on board for more advanced coaching. And if you don't, you can just take what you get from the Lose Your Gut Challenge and use that. And several guys have actually done that. Several guys have actually went through the Lose Your Gut Challenge and, you know, started on a new path to health and fitness from the basics that they got from the challenge itself. So there's a lot of real world value coming from the challenge. I don't know, Jeff, you've participated in multiple of these challenges over the years, and it's fun. And every time, it's the same core concepts each time, but where it's a live interactive group, you know, there's going to be new content, new questions and answers, and new things covered all the time. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. And we're going to be kicking this off on, it'll launch May 19th. And we will actually, so that's when the challenge group opens. And then we'll actually be kicking it off that weekend. So next Friday is when we'll be opening the group and accepting everybody in. So again, if you're interested, head on over to leehayward.com for all the details. And if you do have any questions or whatever, feel free to reach out to me through Facebook Messenger or through email. And of course, contact information is down below in the description. All right. And how are things going with you, Jeff? What's some of the highlights since we last spoke?
Well, everything's been going really great. The workouts have been going really well. Nutrition's been on point. Been making a lot of progress with the calisthenics program that I've been running.
Right.
Got my back lever yesterday. That was really cool.
Cool.
That was the first time. Yeah, first time I've done that one. So that was cool. I was able to hold that for a good 10 seconds too. So that was cool. Yeah, all the skills and everything are coming along really nice. Feeling really strong. I feel like I look the best I've ever looked. And yeah, just plugging away day out, day in and day out.
Isn't that ironic? Like you're not focusing on body composition. You're focusing on your athletic performance with the calisthenics, but in turn, that's helping to improve your body composition. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's. And, you know, I was kind of worried when I first got into the calisthenics thing because I had done bodybuilding for like 4 or 5 years. But, you know, I've actually made more progress with body composition than when I was doing bodybuilding, I think. It's been a new stimulus for my body, all the isometric holds and all the straight arm work and everything. It's been something completely new. And it's been fun starting from the beginning and working your way back up again. And seeing like some of those incremental progresses. Like I had kind of stalled when I was doing bodybuilding and I really wasn't making any progress. And so this has been fun to get back to the beginning and work your way up again.
Yeah, I think the big thing there is just a change in muscle stimulation because you're doing something totally unique, totally different. And again, that change, that's when your body goes through the whole adapt and grow phase. And eventually you'll start to plateau with this. I mean, it's still fairly new. You're still progressing. You're still making, great gains, and ride that wave of momentum for as long as you can. But eventually it's going to come to the point where the gains start to come painfully slow and you're just struggling to make progress. And then when that happens, then that's when you'll need to look into changing it up. And every program, and this applies to virtually whether it's bodybuilding, strength training, powerlifting, athletic performance type of training, every program goes through an adapt, grow, plateau. Adapt, grow, plateau. And because when you try something new, your body is totally unaccustomed to it, has to adapt. In the process of adapting, you're going to get the growth. You're going to see the results. And after a while, once that becomes the new norm, it starts to go a little bit stale, and eventually you will hit a plateau. So when that happens, of course, you'll change it up. But ride that wave of momentum. And this is unique for everybody. It's not like, there's a timeline. Like, you're going to spend 3 weeks in adapt phase and 3 weeks in grow phase, and then you're going to hit a plateau. Like, no. It depends on the individual, the type of training stimulus. It's going to vary. But just realize that is the cycle, the life cycle of any training program. So when you do hit that plateau phase, I'm sure you'll be ready to change it up and do something more unique after that. But hey, I'm glad to hear it's working for you, and ride that wave of momentum.
Yeah, no, it's been working great.
So let's jump in. Let's see who we got joining in. We have Dan joining in. Dan's a regular to our chat. Hello from across the pond in Cape Breton. So Dan is like literally kind of like in the middle of you and I, Jeff, right? I'm out in the North Atlantic. You're in the Northeast United States, and Dan's in the middle. Welcome, Dan. Glad to have you joining in. We have Bruce joining in, another regular to the chat. Says, I live in Fairmount Jasper Park Lodge. Totally looking forward to another Lose Your Gut challenge. Awesome. Glad to have you joining in. And I must know Bruce and I were actually messaging each other back and forth earlier today through Facebook. So he's going to be part of our Lose Your Gut Challenge group this year, the Lose Your Gut Challenge Summer Shred. Looking forward to following along with your progress with that. Who else we have? Moses joining in. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hope you're all well. What would y'all recommend in regards to increasing mass in the traps, shoulder, forearm? Any particular sets, reps, or how many times a week to do? Traps, shoulders, forearms. All right. Well, those are three specific muscles. Because traps, that's the meaty muscles that run into the neck. Actually, the traps are kind of like a diamond-shaped muscle, because it's not just the part attached to your neck, but it's in the upper back too. So it's almost like a diamond shape. So you get the top part, but then the bottom part is in the across the shoulder blades there. The shoulders, that's what most people refer to the deltoids, right? The front, side, and rear delts. And then of course the forearms, that's your Popeye, right? The forearm, all right? So those three different areas. One thing that all those body parts have in common, they're relatively small muscle groups. So you could train those fairly frequently. If they are stubborn body parts and you want to prioritize them, you could train them fairly frequently. And that's what I find tends to be the best for bringing up a stubborn body part, is shorter, more frequent workouts versus going in there and just demolishing the body part in a single session, like the typical bro splits. Like I'm going to get it's chest day, it's leg day, back day, shoulder day, it's whatever, and just going in there and annihilating that body part in one workout. I find it's better to space it out and do multiple shorter workouts throughout the week, because you kind of get that little bit of stimulation, the rest, recover, grow, stimulation, rest, recover, grow, and helps to speed up the whole process without digging yourself into a rush. How do you go about it, Jeff? Like, do you have any, I know like shoulders are one of your stronger body parts, and even forearm and grip strength, from pull-ups and all that kind of body weight stuff, you build up some strong forearms there. But do you have any specific tips or strategies you'd like to share when it comes to trap, shoulder, and forearm development?
Yeah, well, so you could do like the obvious stuff like shrugs and shoulder presses and hanging for grip stuff, or like deadlifts are great for developing forearms, things like that.
Yeah.
Lateral raises, working on the rear delts, right? So that way you get that 3D kind of pop going for the shoulders. And for traps, because traps are more upper back, and or it's your upper back and this part, right? It's like making sure that like when you're doing your pulling movements, right, that you're like, you're pulling, you have that retraction, right, and you're coming down like that and everything, so that way you're contracting those muscles when you are actually doing those exercises, right? So developing a good mind muscle connection with those muscles for particular exercises. So like that kind of stuff. And then what I've been doing lately for traps and forearms and all that stuff is ring work, Olympic ring work. So just if you just like jump up and just try to hold yourself up and like with the rings like that, right? Depress your shoulders like that, right? It's like your traps are working like crazy to hold yourself up there. And last week, I had a friend of mine come over to my house, and we were working up down in the basement. And this guy's a really strong guy. I mean, he had a really impressive deadlift, really impressive bench. And we were, and I was doing the ring stuff, and he was like, he's like, let me try that, right? And he jumps up on the rings, and he's shaking like uncontrollably and everything as he's trying to hold himself up into that position. So it's a really interesting stimulus, and it's a really interesting way to hit those muscles. So so I give that a shot. If you've never tried it before, it can be really humbling. Just holding yourself up in that position.
There's so many things you can do with the rings as well, like from different row variations to push-up variations and things like that, and pull up obviously. But yeah, I mean, it would certainly create that unique muscle stimulation for sure. Something that's totally different than barbells, dumbbells, and machines.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, there's like, that's a loaded question because there's a lot of stuff we could cover here. But he's asking about sets and reps and stuff like that, and how many times a week. Well, I would recommend at least twice a week, possibly even 3 times a week. For if you really want to do like a prioritization training. And again, that depends on your overall schedule and how much time you can dedicate to training and your fitness level and all that. But at least twice a week, I would recommend. If you're currently doing once a week, then hey, bump it up to twice a week. If you're currently already doing twice a week, then try bumping it up to 3 times a week. But just do a little more than you're currently doing now as far as frequency goes. With the sets and the reps, it depends on the type of movements that you're doing. I'm just thinking one of the best things for really thickening up the traps, upper back area, which would be traps / shoulders, power rack lockout deadlifts. I know you mentioned deadlifts earlier. You said a friend of yours is really strong with deadlifts. Power rack lockout deadlifts is one of the best exercises you can do to really overload the traps. And what you would do is you'd set the barbell in the rack just below knee height. Use lifting straps to help reinforce your grip. A good powerlifting, weightlifting belt to help support your lower backs. I mean, you want to be safe with this. And obviously do so in a progressive fashion, but with a lockout motion, that partial range of motion, you're going to be able to handle much more weight than you will in a regular full range of motion. But what's going to happen is, even though it's a partial range of motion, your traps are still under maximum load. So you will be able to handle way more weight with a power rack lockout deadlift than you would with a full range of motion deadlift. And that would be a great way to really overload the traps. I'm telling you, if you did that after your first workout, I guarantee you probably feel soreness that you didn't feel for a while because you would be hitting muscle fibers that are untapped just from that exercise alone. That would also carry over and improve in your forearm and grip strength as well. But chances are your strength will exceed your grip strength. So that's why I recommended the wrist straps. Once you build up to heavy weights, your grip is probably not going to be suffice to hold on to the heavy partial power rack lockout. So you want to reinforce your grip with the wrist straps. That would be a good one. That would really help. Another one for the forearms as well, hand gripper work. Hand grippers are amazing. There's so many things different types of training you can do with hand grippers. And I actually wrote a PDF called Huge Freaky Forearms, and there was a hand gripper training manual that went along with it. If you'd like a copy of that, just drop me an email or send me a message through Facebook and just say, hey, send me the forearm training guide. Just say forearm PDF, and I'll send them to you. I mean, it's my gift to you, right? I got a couple of PDF ebooks that I can send over to you that covers some great forearm training. And this is stuff that I use to really help to bring up my forearms because they were a weak area for me for years, and I had to prioritize them. But yeah, hopefully that helps. And let's move on. So again, that was Moses's question there. Who else we got there? Kenneth saying, where do you sign up? And I'm assuming you're referring to the Lose Your Gut Challenge. Head on over to leehayward.com, and the very first blog post, this talks about the 5-day Lose Your Gut Challenge. In that blog post, there's a link where you can register for it. And just a heads up, the Lose Your Gut Challenge group is going to be a private, invite-only Facebook group. So you have to sign up through Facebook to access that. And I know Kenneth is posting here from Facebook, so that's not an issue. You already got yourself a Facebook account, so you're halfway there. All you have to do is head on over to leehayward.com, read that top blog post, and that covers all the details of what the challenge is, how it works, when it starts, and how you can sign up for it. And again, it's free. Can't get a better deal than that. All right, who else we got? Ange joining in. Hey, Lee, Ange, Jeremy here. I gained a good 5 pounds again this week, now up 20 pounds from a month ago. Lifts are going great. Bulking is the best, but I feel bloated a lot in the 7,000 calorie surplus. Good for you. I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, he chimes in and he's doing great. So Ange has been putting on about 5 pounds a week for the past month. He's up 20 pounds. And bulking is the best, but he feels bloated. You put on 20 pounds in the past month. I'm sure you feel bloated. All I'm going to say, Ange, is you have to keep doing this until you realize that that's not all lean mass. All right? I've tried to explain it in my own best way that I can, but obviously my words are like a fart in the wind. They're not helping. So you're going to have to learn this the hard way through trial and error. After you get to the point where you've put on 40 or 50 pounds and then you have to decide, like, oh my God, I'm fat, I got to lose all this weight, then you'll realize the challenges of the whole bulking and seafood diet. But for now, if it's working for you, keep going. Who am I to judge, right? I mean, maybe you got the crazy genetics that you can actually pack on that kind of mass and have it be lean mass. I mean, who knows? If you're gaining that much, we might see you on the Olympia stage in the next 10 years. Or we'll see you on an episode of My 600-Pound Life, one or the other. But anyway, keep going. We'll move on. Neil's joining in. Hey, Lee and Jeff, is it possible to out-train a bad diet? Whew. Been eating homemade fried meats for days, and now they are delicious, but I train with high intensity. Just curious if I could out-train it. What do you think, Jeff? Out-training a bad diet?
No.
Simple answer.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna go simple here, but like fried food is one of like the worst things you could possibly eat for your health. Not to say I don't like fried food, of course I do. I might have it like
everybody loves it.
Yeah, I might have it like every now and then or something like that, but no, you can't out-train a bad diet. And diet is one of the most important aspects of seeing progress.
Mm-hmm.
It's consistency, diet, and recovery. And you can't recover from your workouts if you have a very poor diet. You need to, if you're trying to grow a plant, you got to have the right soil, you got to give it the right water, you got to give it the right light, you got to make sure you're taking care of it so that way it can grow. And if you're not providing all of those things, then you're not going to see any type of progress whatsoever. Or suboptimal progress, I guess, if I'm being even generous, So no, focus on diet more than anything. Even if there's like days where I can't get to the gym, or if I have a bad night's sleep or something like that, I always prioritize diet. All right.
Nice.
Yep.
I like that approach, focusing on that. And we should really kind of do a bigger picture perspective here of this, because I actually have a video on YouTube. It's one that I made a few years back, saying it was asking like what's more important, like diet or exercise, and it was I think that I had a couple of videos, but this one in particular I'm thinking of, it's like, can you still make progress with a poor diet? And something is better than nothing. So like if you have the choice of poor diet and poor exercise habits, or poor diet and decent exercise habits, the decent exercise habits, like something is better than nothing. Like you're better off exercising even if you have a poor diet than not exercising and having a poor diet. Something's better than nothing. But the best, the optimal, is to have good nutrition and a good exercise program. But to really get into Neil's specific question here, can you out-train it? It's unlikely. I mean, some people who have really fast metabolisms and who are very active can still stay relatively lean if even if they eat not so good food. And usually they're super active. Like you see some like endurance athletes who burn massive amounts of calories, sometimes will eat not so healthy food and still keep their weight under control because their calorie expenditure is so massive. But for the average person who's probably working out 3 to 4 times a week, like an hour workout, no, you're not burning that many calories through a workout, right? So I mean, it's so easy to cancel out the calories burned through nutrition. And this is a big mistake a lot of people make, and I've been guilty of this myself, is using the fact that you work out as an excuse to eat whatever you want. You say like, oh, I worked out, I deserve to have that pizza, right? I worked out, I deserve to have, that piece of chocolate cake, or I whatever. I deserve it because after all, I worked out. Or no, I mean, you worked out, you probably burned, 500 calories. You could easily cancel that out with cake and pizza or whatever your poor diet of choice. And then fried meats, anything that's deep fried and high in fat, then that's astronomical when it comes to calories. So,
yeah. I know guys like I got a friend of mine, and he cycles like absolute crazy. And he says, he's like, I do all the cycling, that way I can eat whatever I want. And the guy is like rail thin.
Yeah.
But like, just because you look a certain way or something doesn't mean that you're healthy. So I would prioritize that. And like, just because you're being very active and everything, and even if you're staying lean, being very active, if your diet's not good, it doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy. And health is the most important part. That's why we do this in the first place, right? Is to be healthy and to be fit. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. It's not just the weight on the scale or how you look. It's your health, and that's a huge thing. Because I mean, you could still eat junk food and keep your weight under control, but what's happening on the inside, on the cellular level as far as nutrition is concerned, and that's one thing that's crazy about nutrition these days. Is it's possible to overeat to the point where you become obese and have layers and layers of excess body fat and still be malnourished on the cellular level because you're empty calories. And when we say like, refined foods that have been stripped of their, natural nutritional goodness, whereas years ago, like in our grandparents and great grandparents and generations before, that was pretty much impossible. Like if somebody ate think of 100+ years ago, if somebody ate to the point of becoming obese, they had to eat real food. Like it wasn't processed crap like it is today. So they ate, but they were still getting nourishment. Whereas nowadays it's possible to eat and it's literally empty calories. Like there's nothing there. It's just, refined sugars and refined bleached flours and food that is void of any nutritional value other than calories and taste.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I don't understand too, like how people like perform like when they have very poor diets like that. Like if I'm going to go into the gym and try to really give it all I got and perform to my maximum ability and try to get stronger session to session and all that, like I need to feel good. And in order for me to feel good, I need to eat well and I need to get enough sleep.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. I don't get how people can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I say, it's a very broad topic, and this is stuff that we're really going to go into a lot of detail within the Lose Your Gut Challenge. Like each day we do a deep dive into different elements of fitness and nutrition, and this is certainly one of those areas. So again, if you're interested in more nutrition advice like this, by all means, sign up for the Lose Your Gut Challenge, and we'll really do a deep dive into that. And we do have nutrition guides and our Lose Your Gut Challenge cheat sheet that kind of simplifies a step-by-step action plan that you can follow to get started on the right track. So all that stuff will be provided to you free of charge when you sign up for the Lose Your Gut Challenge. Who else we got there? Kyle's jumping in saying, what are some good methods for improving cardiovascular health, VO2 max, and overall longevity while minimizing overall fatigue? Oh, that's like $1 million question.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do it all? All right. Cardiovascular health, VO2 max, and overall longevity. This, obviously, we can cover the simple stuff, but it really depends on where you're to. The fact that you're even using these words like VO2 max, like this is something that I personally monitor and measure. But when I talk about it, like the average person, even people who go to the gym and work out, like, what's a VO2 max? Like, I know what a 1 rep max bench press is, but what's a VO2 max? I never heard of that. What the hell is that? So the fact that you're even talking about these concepts and these things means you're probably more advanced than the average person. So you're probably going to need more advanced methods than the average person. Because someone who's just getting started, hey, are you doing cardio? No? Well, how about you start doing some cardio? Like that's one way to improve your cardiovascular health. That would also improve your VO2 max. It would also improve overall longevity and all that good stuff. But if you're already doing all this, like you're already training consistently, you're incorporating cardio, and you have some structure to your program, then we need to get into more advanced, styles of training. And one that I'm a huge advocate of, and I find very powerful for myself, because I'm big into cycling these days, and I've been doing a lot of structured training related to that, is I use a polarized training method. And what that means is the majority of my workouts are lower intensity, longer duration workouts. In the endurance world, we would refer to that as zone 2 workouts. And then I would incorporate some higher intensity sessions in there, whether it's a high intensity interval session or some threshold work, things where you are working higher up in the intensity, hitting into that VO2 max threshold area. And that would be done it would be done much lower frequency. So like 80% of the time, you'd be doing the lower intensity, longer duration training. And about 20% of the time is when you would be pushing the higher threshold work with the higher intensity. And that style of training, polarized training, like you can go on Google and YouTube and all that, start searching for polarized training. It's very popular in the endurance world. And it's a style of training that works really well. So that's what I personally do myself. And that's what I would recommend for anybody who's looking to improve their cardiovascular fitness and their VO2 max. And depending on what it is you're training for, there's a lot of good structured workout programs that you can find out there that will help you with that, right? Cardiovascular training. And to kind of give you an idea, like some of my workouts, probably like just your slow, steady state cardio workouts, that's the bulk of it. But then we might do some high intensity intervals where there's some sprint work in there, some long duration threshold work where it might be like a 10 or 15 minutes duration where you're holding like max effort for 10 to 15 minutes and everything in between. Sometimes we do pyramid style where you start off at a lower intensity, build it up to a peak, and then build it back down. Right? There's all kinds of different structures of monitoring and modifying your cardio training. But the whole idea of the polarized, where the bulk of it is long duration, low intensity, and then the peak 20% is the real high intensity. Leave it on the empty the tank, leave it on the table type thing. Don't save anything in reserve.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jeff, you're doing some cardio workouts. Like you got the Echelon bike, and you do some of those workouts there, don't you?
Yeah, I do the
structured workouts with that, or do you races, or what do you do?
No, I don't have like anything programmed or anything. I just go for bike rides. Like I have well, now that the weather's getting nice, we have a rail trail that it's about a 20-mile rail trail to Manchester. So I'll get on that and go back and forth to that a few times, and then do some like some handstand stuff or whatever when I get back. And but I do the Echelon classes like on rainy days or in the winter time. I like doing that because it can be competitive too, which I kind of like. So if you have like friends who also have an echelon bike, like you can do classes at the same time.
Cool.
Yeah, so just trying to incorporate daily movement into the day, no matter what it is. Like for when I do my regular scheduled program workouts, I always start off every session with like explosive movements like jumping, pivoting, sprinting, something like that, just to like get the heart rate up, get the core temperature up. So I do cardio, but it's like I don't structure it and I don't program it because I'm not prioritizing it right now at this moment like you are. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that I've only recently, like within the last few years, gotten more into it. Because before, I was using cardio as a fat loss tool. It was a supplement to my weight training workouts to just help burn fat and calories. Right? That's all I used cardio for. Like when I was getting ready for bodybuilding competitions, I didn't monitor my cardio training other than the fact that I did it. And how I judge the intensity is, if I got a lot of energy and I'm feeling good, then I'm probably going to do a harder session today. If I'm dragging my heels and I'm feeling exhausted, I'm just going to do an easier session. That was the extent of it. It was not any more complicated than that. And the fact was, I just did it consistently. There's good enough, but good enough consistently mindset. That's what works when it comes for fat loss. It's just getting it done, because when you're doing it on a regular basis, you are burning up that fat and calories, but it's not doing it for the sake of improving athletic performance. Now, yes, there is athletic performance being achieved just by doing it, but it's not as structured as when you're pushing it. It's the same idea, like someone who just goes to the gym and lifts weights because they enjoy it versus someone who's following like a structured powerlifting program or something like that. Obviously, if you're following a structured program and you're very consistent and meticulous and methodical with your approach, you can squeeze out more, you can get more results for the effort put in. But you have to look at it from the bigger perspective as well. Like, what are you doing this for? And if you can sustain it and enjoy it and just be good enough consistently, like for 90% of the people out there, that's all they need. It's only a very small percentage of the population is looking to truly maximize their performance beyond just being healthy and fit. All right. But again, that's some specific suggestions there, Kyle. And if you do have any questions, like you want to elaborate and kind of, geek out on this stuff, feel free to message me and we can chat. Who else we have? Manuel da Silva. Greetings from South Africa. I've been following you for years. Well, appreciate the support. And wow, South Africa. It's a long ways away. All right. Have you ever been to Europe or Africa or anywhere like that, Jeff?
No, my wife was just in Tanzania, though.
Where is that exactly?
I want to say it's on the eastern coast of Africa, more towards the south.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I want to say that.
Yeah, sounds good enough to me. I don't know. I've only been in North America, right? So my geography is very limited. I've been all over North America. Like I've literally been coast to coast. I did that before. We actually did a road trip one time where we started in California and drove right to Newfoundland. So literally right across the whole continent. But that's the extent of my my global travels is North America. I've never been to Europe, never been to the Middle East, never been to Asia or Australia. Those are all.
You've been to Mexico.
Well, that's still North America.
Well, yeah, it's international though.
Oh yes, right. I guess, yeah. But it's still in the North America. I'm in the Americas. Right? Haven't left the Americas. Yeah, but anyway, we got Manuel joining in from South Africa. Glad to have you joining in. Bruce is joining us. So one I do for arms, shoulders, traps is tie weights to a 1-inch, 12-inch, 16-inch long bar pipe, and you just slowly wind the rope, lifting, then lowering the weight. Arm, shoulders, trap. Do you mean wrist rollers? I think that's what he's talking about. The wrist roller. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you do it the way he's talking about there, it's literally because you do have to engage the front delts to support it, and then of course the forearms. One that I've done, if you really want to, I mean that what Bruce shared is a great exercise, but if you want to maximize the forearm stimulation, you can do a similar movement with the Olympic bar in a rack. So have the set up, at shoulder height, whether it's like in the power rack or whatever, and just use the sleeve of the Olympic bar, the rotating sleeve, and in the middle, tie a rope to it. You might have to get like a piece of rubber or something so the rope doesn't slide, but you can actually have a rope and weights attached to it, and then where it's supported, now you're not having to lift the weight with your shoulders. You can just totally crank your forearms and your wrists. And of course, the thick sleeve of the Olympic bar is extra hard, because the thicker it is, the more your grip strength comes into play. That's one that I've done before. Is brutal.
It sounds brutal.
But you can lift a lot more weight with that. But yeah, those are great exercises. You know, there's so many like weird, unique exercises that you can do, and it's sometimes you need minimal equipment. Like what Bruce is just here and there, like that's something you can bring that up at home with just junk you got laying around the house.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be anything overly complicated. Sometimes the simple stuff like that can be some of the most challenging and productive. See what else? We have a unique monkey joining us. Right. I love the usernames. All right. What's a good product to track your workout calories and heart rate accurately? Calories and heart rates. You can get heart rate monitors, like a lot of these like Garmin watches and Fitbits and all these kind of things. What do you got there, Jeff?
I got the Garmin Solar Watch, and I love this thing.
There. See, so I'm talking about a Garmin watch, and he's got one on his wrist. I don't have a Garmin watch, but I have a Garmin head unit that I use for my bicycle rides. Right. So, and what I do is I use a heart rate monitor chest strap, which syncs up with the Garmin and stuff, and it tracks, the rides and the calories. Now, it's the calories burned. It's an estimated guess, but it's relatively, it's in the ballpark. I mean, it may vary, and it depends a lot on the variables you enter in as well, right? Like obviously your body weight and all that stuff has to be entered in accurately in the type of exercise you're doing, but it'll give you a ballpark estimate of calories burned, and heart rate should be pretty accurate. Like depending on whatever method you're using, whether it's a watch or a heart rate monitor strap, something like that should be relatively accurate. But I think the best one would be a heart rate monitor strap. Now it's a little bit more tedious because you have to purposely put it on, whereas the watch, you're probably wearing it all the time like Jeff is right now. So it's very convenient. But that's what I use myself. I use a heart rate monitor strap when I do my cardio. So with that, do you wear that during your workouts as well? So you're track your heart rate and all that?
I never take this thing off my wrist. I love it. It's great. And it's it charges by solar. So if I wear it outside, it charges itself. So I hardly ever have to charge it like in a wall or anything with an outlet. Awesome. So yeah, it's great. I love this thing.
Is that a fairly new model, or?
I bought this a couple of years ago, but it works just as good as the day I bought it. I was thinking about upgrading to the newer model, but it's only because I'm a tech geek, and when new things come out, I want to go buy them immediately.
That's a bad habit to get into sometimes.
Oh, I know. But I love it, and it has an app to it too, so it tracks all my workouts too. So
you use Garmin Connect for that, or is that what it says?
Yeah. Garmin Connect. Yeah. So it has all my workouts tracked and everything, which is great. So I can check out my sessions, my previous sessions, and try to beat them.
Cool.
So,
I use Garmin Connect as well with mine and stuff. So that's what I use personally to log my workouts and just to track it. And I just like it because then it gives you an overview of like, okay, how many days were you active this week? How many calories did you burn on average for workout? And just gives you some numbers to geek out on. But I find it's helpful to just look at the trend. Because like last year, for example, I know I was active. I was active like 315 days out of the year in 2022. Right. So like that's cool to know. I mean, that basically means I worked out 6 days a week, or exercise. When I say workout, I mean it wasn't always going to the gym lifting weights. It could be walking, cycling, doing other things as well. But there was 6 days a week of activity in 2022, which is pretty darn good. And it's just nice to know that. And if you have those numbers, it really you can look at the long-term trend, because sometimes when I'm chatting to people and coaching people, they'll say, "Oh, I'm doing everything right, and I'm super consistent with my workouts and my diet and everything else, and blah 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 blah." And then we start to break down like the long-term trend, and they might have been consistent for the last 3 weeks. I never missed a workout in the last 3 weeks, but the previous 6 months before that, they were hit and miss and all over the place. So it's not the short-term intensity, it's the long-term consistency. And that's what I like about some of these apps is like you can look at your fitness trend and stats over over the past year or over the past 2 years or something like that, and like see, okay, what have you been doing? Where are you moving? Are you headed in the right direction or not? Because a lot of times when we're coaching people, and Jeff helps out over at the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, coaching people as well, we see it's like spotty. Like, okay, there might be 2 or 3 weeks of very dedicated effort, and then there's like a 2 or 3 weeks or longer of no effort, and then there's another burst of effort, and then there's weeks of nothing. And that on and off again approach, it's not going to produce optimal results. Far from it. A more conservative approach that's done consistently, like I would rather see somebody work out 3 days a week consistently than work out 6 days a week inconsistently. Like the long-term consistency is going to beat the short-term intensity. But I kind of got off track with that one. But for our unique monkey, I would recommend Garmin. That's what we both use for our tracking workouts and calories and heart rate. Whether it's a watch or whatever. I think a watch would be the most practical for most people.
Yeah.
All right, we have Ryan joining in. I tried making your high-protein ice cream yesterday, and it was awesome. My questions are, do you still eat it on a regular basis? And if so, are there any changes or additions to it? This is one. I mean, Jeff, I know you've made multiple different recipes, so we'll get you to share on that. But with this high-protein ice cream, it's basically it's protein powder and frozen berries as the base. That's now for the liquid. You could use milk, you could use yogurt, you could use liquid egg whites, you could use whatever. It's just something there to mix it all up in. But what makes it the high protein and have an ice creamy texture is the protein powder and frozen fruit, whether it's frozen fruit or frozen berries or whatever. So I'll play around with different concoctions like that. My go-to is usually I use liquid egg whites, pasteurized liquid egg whites from the carton. A scoop of protein powder, and then frozen berries of choice. And I can use different berry blends or different frozen fruit blends. But that's my usual go-to. What about you, Jeff? Do you have any special recipes or unique variations to our blender ice cream?
My wife has been telling me about one that she learned about recently that has cottage cheese in it. It's cottage cheese, bananas, and protein powder, I think. And
good.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I was like, you could put like some like PB2 in there too or something, and like add some water and like give it like a thick peanut butter consistency and mix it in like that too. So that was one I've been meaning to check out. The one that I'm really on right now is I'm making this banana bread recipe that's so good and it's so easy to make. It's like you just get a blender and you do a banana. You do a third. I should write this down too. I'll write it down and then I can send it to you. I should add it to the cookbook actually.
There you go.
Yeah, but so it's like it's 2/3 a cup of PB2, right? You add some milk, some like almond milk, unsweetened almond milk, and then stir it around so it becomes like peanut butter consistency. And then it's like a banana. It's a cup of almond flour. Some sugar-free maple syrup is in there. You crack an egg, you put that in there too. Protein powder, baking soda, and then just blend it all up. And then pour it in a pan, like a Pyrex pan, and then bake it at 350 for a half hour. And I don't know if it's like the almond. Yeah, it's so good. You have to try it. And I don't know if it's like the almond flour. Like I think that's the
This is a
key to
cake,
it.
basically. It's not.
It's like it's like a
So
cake. Yeah, but
it's not an ice cream, but still, it's still good as a dessert.
oh yeah, no. I mean, yeah, but you could see this is the thing though. It's like you can get creative with all these dessert recipes. It doesn't have to just be ice cream, right?
Yeah.
But like, so you get the cake. It comes out right, and it's the almond flour gives it a really nice soft texture. And then you can take protein powder and you can mix it with a little bit of milk, like almond milk again, and then so it gets like an icing consistency, and put it on the top of it. And it's a really great dessert recipe. And
Mm.
it is super easy to make. It takes like no ingredients whatsoever, you know? So, I mean, there's a million like protein ice cream recipes. If you just go on Instagram and you just type in protein ice cream recipe, like a million are going to come up with probably with different ingredients. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, that's the banana bread one is the one I'm doing. And then I'm going to try out this cottage cheese one that my wife was telling me about at some
Cool.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Let us know. So, like, share to our Facebook group when you get it. When it goes, whether it goes well or not.
Yeah. I mean, some of these, like you see them on Instagram, and they look amazing, and you're like, wow, that looks
Oh
like something you can make at a
yeah,
restaurant
I
or something.
know.
And then it comes out, and you're like, hey, yeah, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
what
Some of these recipes, yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah.
not as glamorous as they make it out to be, and a lot of times, right? I mean, with I know people who've made cookbooks and stuff like that, and they're taking like stock photos of like a proper recipe, and then they're using that image for their healthy high protein variation, and it doesn't look or
Hmm.
taste anything like the original. I mean, it's still
No.
good enough, right? It can still be tasty, but yeah, there's always a trade-off, right? I mean, it's probably not going to taste as good as the real thing, but it's going to be a heck of a lot healthier for you than the real thing. So
Yeah.
where
Yep.
do you want to make the trade-off? Like, I would rather a little less taste and a lot more health and nutrition than optimal taste and become a fat ass in the process. you know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Is it? Oh, you know, there's another one I got to tell you about too. Is that okay? Can I tell you about another
Go
one?
ahead.
Yeah. So
Wow.
this chocolate mousse recipe. Okay, it was like with avocados and cocoa powder.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife got me this bodybuilding cookbook thing for Christmas this past year, and and most of it's just like basic stuff that you already know
Uh-huh.
about. But that's like the kicker at the end there. It's like avocados and cocoa powder and
Really?
protein powder, yeah, protein powder and some other things like that. And like the avocado gives it like a really nice thick consistency to it. I
Hmm.
think that's like it's.
Interesting.
I think that's yeah, because I think that's the main thing. It's like a consistency thing more than anything.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's like
Like
it
a
has a
mousse.
weird
So it's a creamy mousse texture to it, I guess.
yeah.
Wow.
I tell you what, when you and Trish and Harvey come by this summer, I'm making it for you.
All right. We'll have some
I'm
chocolate
well.
avocado mousse.
I'm not gonna tell you whether it's avocado though. I'm just gonna be like, look at this delicious dessert I got at the market, and
Yeah.
yeah. Well, now you know, but don't tell
There we
Trish.
go. But yeah, it'd be interesting. Uh, one thing I also want to share, this is directly related to Ryan's protein ice cream. One that's super popular now, I know several guys in our coaching group are using them, is the Ninja Creamy. Have you ever used it or heard of it?
No,
Ninja
but
Creamy?
I own every Ninja product known to man, so
Okay, well, there's another
yeah.
one. There's another Ninja
Okay.
out there. Ninja Creamy. They got like a whole Facebook group, and it's almost like a cult following, but it's basically like a blender slash food processor that is specifically made for high protein ice cream, like healthy ice cream. So it's I don't know. I don't own one myself, so I can't really compare. But supposedly, it's like a food processor slash blender that's specifically geared for that. So I guess it must have a powerful motor and blades that can chew through ice and all the stuff, to make a nice
Mm,
consistent. Because that's one of the problems with these high protein ice cream recipes is if you got a crappy blender, it's going to bog it down, right? You're burn the motor out of it. You need to have a
yeah.
powerful machine that's going to do this justice. But there's
Yeah.
one called the Ninja Creamy, and they got everyone is sharing their own recipes and stuff. But they use cottage cheese and Greek yogurt a lot for the base of those protein ice cream recipes.
Well, the second we log off, I know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going on
Okay.
Amazon and buying a new Ninja product.
Right?
So
Yeah,
yeah. I tell you, I got the Ninja coffee machine. I got the air fryer. I got a big blender, and then I got the bullet blender. It's like,
well, you're a proper ninja, Jeff.
They're so worth it. Yeah.
Oh, what else I got there? Robert's joined in and says, Lee, you've explained about bulking very well. Thank you. All right, appreciate that. What else we got? And saying, ever since I stopped smoking weed a few weeks ago, I can't sleep. Severe insomnia. Tried everything. Everything. Nothing helps. Going to start smoking it again tonight before bed. Only thing that helps. I've never smoked weed. Well, that's a lot. I've tried it, you know, when you're a kid and you're going out to like these parties and the joint is being passed around and, you know, have a drag. And I took a drag, but I've never ever like bought it or had it or smoked it myself. I took a drag when the thing was going around at the party, but that's the extent of my weed smoking there. And I didn't get anything out of it. So I suppose one inhale of a joint's probably not going to do a whole lot for you. But that's so I have zero experience with smoking weed is what I'm trying to get at. So I'm not the best person to advise you on this. In Canada, weed is legal. Like I can go to the grocery store and buy weed. Right?
Really? It's at the grocery store?
There's a weed store in our grocery store. Like,
wow.
It's like they have the cigarette and the weed shop all together, right? You know, so like you go in the grocery store and there's a little side section there, and it's the C shop they call it. So it's like cigarettes and weed and whatever. And everywhere you go, there's cannabis stores and this, and there's another one called Tweed. But everywhere, like there's weed stores all over the place, everywhere, and it's legal in Canada. But I didn't smoke it when it was illegal, and I haven't smoked it since it's been legal. So but yeah, there's no shortage of weed in Canada. And of course, some people are, you know, going on about all the health benefits to it, and I go, hey, if it works for you, go for it. But you know, I'm not going to start smoking it for the so-called health benefits of smoking weed. I don't know. Maybe these chats would be a lot more mellow if I was.
Next week's Q&A, you're gonna have the dreadlocks and everything, the Rastafarian hat,
incense burning in the background, you know.
Yeah,
right?
Completely changed.
Mellowed out here. Do you have any advice to share for this insomniac who needs to smoke weed?
I mean, I would say if you're going through drug withdrawals, I don't think more drugs is the answer. But
no,
I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different variations. Like there's all the oil. Again, I'm a total newbie from this because I don't know it and don't do it. But like there's all kinds of different variations of weed, from the CBD oils and all this kind of stuff. So like I know some people use it for a sleep aid and, you know, pain relief and everything else. So excuse me, there might be some options you can look into if you don't want to actually smoke the weed itself. But talk to your doctor. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah? Talk to your doctor. I don't have any specific advice or experience on weed smoking. All right, what else we got?
That was my favorite question so far.
That was the question of the day, right? All right.
That was great.
Right. Smoking weed. All right. Or not. But on another time, I ran into a buddy of mine that I actually went to high school with. I ran into him a while back, and he was working at he owns a gardening store, and one of the biggest things is selling stuff that helps with growing your own product at home, right? That's a big thing here now, where it's legal. Like a lot of people, instead of buying it, they're growing it their own. So he has a gardening store, and like that's the cash cow in the gardening store, is selling paraphernalia to grow your own weed. And you know, I ran into him, and we actually stopped into the gardening store. I didn't even know he owned the place, and recognized him and stuff. And he was smoking a joint while he was out there in the garden working away, right? And I mean, like, some people are like, that's just a regular thing, you know. It's legal. They just do it, and you know, smoking a joint's no different than smoking a cigarette.
I think just like everything, it's like too much of something
Yeah.
isn't necessarily a good thing. So
Yeah. But you know what? From a practical point of view, I think legalizing it was probably a smart move because I mean, like we got bigger problems in the world and spending money and resources to put away someone who wants to smoke a joint. Like
oh yeah,
we got bigger problems out there than that.
I know.
But anyway, moving on. All right, we'll leave the smoke. We'll leave that one up and smoke. What heart rate zone should you aim for when doing strength training? Is it a good idea to do some cardiovascular training before for a weight training session? Honestly, Manuel, I don't even track my heart rate when I'm doing strength training because strength training and cardio are two totally different forms of exercise. I mean, obviously, when you strength train, your heart rate is going to get elevated, but it's not like there's an ideal target heart rate for strength training. Like what you should focus on is the strength training, like how you're maximizing your strength output in terms of the weight you're lifting and the repetitions you're doing and the volume and stuff like that. The heart rate is going to be like a roller coaster. It's going to be up and down because like you do a set and it's going to spike. You rest in between sets, it's going down. You do a set of spikes. Whereas with cardio, where it's a steady movement, it's going to be remaining elevated. So there is no heart rate zone for this. Really, it's just going to be like a. It's going to be up and down, up and down, up and down the whole time. Jeff, do you track it at all? Like I know you wear the Garmin, so like, do you track it at all during your strength training?
Not when I strength train, but I do try to do some cardio, like very like low intensity cardio before my weight training sessions, just to get the core temperature up, get the blood flowing, start to feel loose, like move around a little bit, so the joints loosen up a little bit, right? Feel lubricated. But
Yeah.
but no, I don't track it during weight training sessions, only cardio sessions.
Yeah, same with me. I don't even consider it during weight training. So and there would be such a fluctuation as well because it depends on the type of exercise you're doing. Like obviously, if you're doing squats, it's going to be a lot different than if you're doing bicep curls. If you're doing higher repetitions, it's going to be a lot different than lower repetitions. And heart rate, there's always a lag time with heart rate and effort. Like if you exert maximum effort, it's not like an instant correlation. Like as soon as you put the gas down, your heart rate spikes. It's like you put the effort in, and then after the body realizes, okay, we need to start pumping more blood. So there's always a lag time between your heart rate elevating and the effort you put in. And sometimes if you're tracking it, especially with cardio, like you may do a hard effort, especially like if it's a hard short effort. Like let's just say you're climbing up a steep hill on your bike and you're tracking your heart rate. You might get to the top of the hill and start to crest the hill. And okay, now the pressure's eased off, but then that's when your heart rate actually hits the peak because there was a lag time. Like you worked harder on the actual climb itself, but there's a lag time before the heart rate actually hits maximum heart rate. So it's going to be all over the place. So like, for example, you do a set of squats, it's going to spike your heart rate, but you might not hit maximum heart rate until you rack the weight and you stop the set. And then afterward, you're going to be, your heart's pounding in your chest afterwards. So, it's bottom line. I wouldn't. I personally don't track it with weight training, or I don't. That's not a variable that I'm concerned about. I'm worried about the exercises, the sets, the reps, the weight, the form that I'm using. Getting that mind muscle connection. There's so many other things that I'm concerned about with strength training besides heart rate. What else? We got Todd joining in. Excuse me. He says, trying to figure out the amount of grams of carbs for a carb cycling for a friend who's a female, bodybuilding, 5'2", 135 pounds. That's a loaded question because it depends. I can kind of share some of the general rules that I've kind of used with coaching people with a carb cycling diet, but the actual numbers and stuff like that would depend on the individual, their metabolism, their activity level, what it is, or well, she's okay. I was going to say, what is she training for? She trained for bodybuilding, obviously. All right. So with bodybuilding, the goal is get as lean as possible, right? Like athletic performance, strength, all that, that's secondary. It's getting as lean as possible is primary goal. So even if your strength suffers, your athletic performance suffers, if you get shredded, that's still a win as far as bodybuilding is concerned. But as far as the rotation of carb cycling, I usually, when I would do this or coaching people with it, 2 high carb days, 2 medium carb days, and then 2 to 3 low carb days, and then repeat the cycle. I always go high, medium, low, high, medium, low. And what you're basically doing is kind of like getting the benefits of, a bulk and cut all within a week without going into any metabolic drawbacks. Because 2 high carb days, you're in a slight surplus. So you boost your metabolism. Your body doesn't think it's starving. And then when you go into the medium carb day, that's a slight calorie deficit. And then the low carb day is an aggressive calorie deficit. But you're only there for a short period of time before you spike it back with the high carb day again. So it is a great way to accelerate fat burning by keeping your metabolism elevated. It's a great way to prevent muscle loss because every week you're refilling your glycogen stores on those high carb days. So it is a powerful strategy. And it takes a lot of willpower and dedication and stuff to do this because, you can't be haphazard and all over the place with your diet. Like, oh, it's a low carb day, but I feel like having a slice of pizza. Like, no, you can't do it, right? You have to follow a strict meal plan, and you have to, high carb days, I'm eating the high carbs. Medium carb days, I'm eating the medium carbs. Low carb days is virtually no carbs. It's protein and vegetables. So how I would do it is with the high carb days, it would be protein, veggies, and complex carbs with every meal. So if I was having 6 meals a day, that'd be 6 servings of complex carbs because every meal would have a generous serving of carbohydrates. Medium carb day, I would have protein and veggies for all meals, but I'd only have complex carbs with, say, breakfast and dinner. So 2 meals out of the day would have carbs. The rest would be protein and veggies. Then on the low carb days, there's no complex carbs. It's just protein and veggies. So whatever trace amounts of carbs you get from the vegetables, that would be the extent of it. And that's how I would go about cycling my carbohydrates for carb cycling. Now, the exact numbers and portions and all that, that's going to really depend on the individual. But you could start with that template and then adjust it based on how your body responds. And that's basically how every good coach does it. We can use calorie calculators and trackers and estimate what your total daily energy expenditure is, but it's an educated guess. Once you actually start following it and seeing how your body responds, that's when you can tweak the numbers and know for sure. Jeff, do you track your carbs, your macros, calories, all that kind of stuff? Or do you?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I do. I just try to have 3 meals a day with lean protein, vegetables, and some kind of starchy carb. And then if I'm not feeling particularly hungry or something like that, then I'll leave out the carb. But no, I don't track calories or macros. I do the portion method pretty much.
Right. That's a better. Even though it sounds like it's not as accurate, it's actually more practical and it can be very accurate because, again, when you're tracking the actual calories and macros and stuff like that, there's a huge margin of error. But with portions, it's more practical and it's easy to judge your portions. It's like, hey, I went from 2 cups of rice down to 1.5 cups of rice. Hey, I scale back my carbohydrates. That's very easy and measurable and trackable and all that kind of stuff. Or, I went from 1 chicken breast to 2 chicken breasts. I bumped up my protein portion. It's so much easier to do that than sometimes weighing and measuring and trying to, go through it, crunching all the numbers. Because there's a lot of margin of error when you're crunching numbers.
Right.
It's simpler and it's more practical from a real world application. So that's what I usually recommend as well. Most of the guys in our group, we'll probably put the numbers out there just so they can get an idea of what a portion and the numbers are. But ultimately, we want to get people to just looking at portion control, not actual macro tracking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I try to make it as stupid simple as possible.
Stupid simple. I know that's one way, but well, keep it simple, stupid. That's what they say, right? But it's
Yeah,
keep
you
it
gotta,
simple, smart, because it's actually
gotta,
smart. It's not stupid to keep it simple.
yeah, kiss it, right?
Yeah.
KISS. Keep it
No,
simple,
they say
stupid.
keep it simple, stupid, but I think it should be keep it simple and smart, because it's actually, when it's simple, it's the smart way to go about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
But if it's a simple approach that's done consistently, almost always outproduces a more advanced approach that's done inconsistently. So that's
exactly.
why I would like to keep it simple.
Hmm.
But carb cycling, it certainly is something that can work, but it has to be done with consistency. You can't be haphazard with carb cycling. I mean, most people are haphazard with dieting in general. They'll diet for a few days, and then they'll have a cheat meal, and then they'll get back on it again, or diet starts on Monday, and like, so if you're all over the place, then obviously carb cycling is not going to work, right? You
Yeah.
have to be spot on in order for it to work. But for those people who are spot on with it, it does produce, rapid results for sure. Let's see what else we got here.
I got time for one more.
All right, one
Yep.
more.
Mhm.
This is a good one for you. It's talking about calisthenics from our unique monkey.
Ah,
Our monkey is asking, can you build muscle with calisthenics? If yes, how much faster or slower compared to weightlifting? Well, Jeff, you're doing a calisthenics program. Kind of share some real world feedback about your results with muscle building doing calisthenics.
well, the short answer to that is yes, absolutely. You can build muscle with calisthenics. It's more about progressively getting stronger than it is about the type of resistance that you're using. So calisthenics is just using body weight as resistance as opposed to using like dumbbells or plates or things like that, or bands or things like that. Um, I think that upper body, you absolutely can build as well of a physique with calisthenics as you can with weights. I think with lower body,
Mm.
eventually you're going to need to add some resistance to it. Um, but I mean, you could still get a killer workout with just body weight, lower body exercises for sure. Like if you're doing, especially if you get into doing unilateral work and you're doing single leg type of exercises. I mean, those can be very, very super intense with just body weight alone. Um, I think what's nice about calisthenics is that it's very functional type of exercises. So like um, you're not just improving your strength, you're also improving your coordination, your flexibility, and that's a big benefit, I think, to a lot of things, or a big added benefit to doing calisthenics as
Yeah.
opposed to doing weights, right? Um, so like with lower body stuff, for instance, like I mean, ever since I've been doing calisthenics types of workouts, like I've had more mobility and flexibility gains in my lower body than I did when I was doing weight
Wow.
training kind of stuff. Yeah, like I'm almost at the point right now where I can do like a full ATG squat with my heels on the floor. By
You couldn't do that before.
No, my depth was horrible before
Yeah.
when I was just doing weight training and stuff. So like by prioritizing that, like that, I've opened up that range of motion
Good.
by prioritizing body weight stuff over doing weights. So so anyway, yeah, I mean, short answer is yes, you can absolutely build muscle with calisthenics. It's and faster or slower depends on you and how much work you
Yeah.
put into it, how committed you are to it, and um and yeah, and how consistent you are with it.
That's a good point. Like, a lot of times people will say, like, is this program better than that program, or is this diet better than that diet, or what's better? And it's really not the program or the diet or whatever. It's the person applying it and how much effort and consistency and like all the other outside variables, not the actual program itself. It's all the other stuff. Because the crazy thing is, you could have people doing totally opposing schools of training, schools of dieting, or whatever, and still get amazing results. Like, prime example, we could have in the bodybuilding world, you have like the high volume guys, like back in the pumping iron days. You had Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was like 6 days a week, twice a day, and then you had Mike Mentzer, who was the high intensity, whatever it was, 3 days a week or something like that. Two totally opposing styles of training, right? High volume versus the high intensity, low volume. Both of them made amazing results. You know, both of them had world-class physiques that were on the Olympia stage, right? Like, you know, amazing. And another, when it comes to diet, we have vegans on one side and carnivores on the other. And you'll see people who are in shape in both, and then both are convinced that if you do the other, you're going to die.
Yeah.
If you eat a piece of meat, you're going to die, and then the carnivores tell you if you eat a plant, you're going to die. And both of them are convinced they're right. So, like, there's got to be a balance in between. But bottom line, if you fully commit to a particular program or particular diet or particular whatever, and I mean, like, you're totally 100% committed to it, you can make progress with pretty much anything, right? It's
Yep. And go for the things that you enjoy. Like if you love calisthenics and everything, like you're going to put way more effort into it because you love it and you enjoy it than if you are just doing weights because you just think that weights are going to build more muscle. Right? Like I make progress with my training because I care about my training, because I go down there wanting to get stronger, to get better, and putting myself into it. I look forward to doing it, right? So I see the most progress, or I'm making the most progress with this program currently because I care about it and because I give it 110% every time I train. So yeah, like you said, you know, it's everything works. It's just like what speaks to you.
And you have to look at too, like the ultimate end goal. I mean, if you're looking for like a lean, athletic, pound for pound, lean, fit, athletically strong, some of the best athletes are guys who do calisthenics. Like look at a gymnast, for example, like amazing physique, but not like overly big. Whereas like you see some like elite level powerlifters and bodybuilders, like, yeah, they're probably bigger, but you know, that may not be what you're going for. Like, you know, people just don't want to always be bigger for the sake of being bigger. I certainly don't, not at this stage of the game. I mean, I don't want to be bigger. Like I'm under 200 pounds and I want to stay under 200 pounds. Like that's my threshold. If I get over 200 pounds, it's like, that's the check engine, like the warning light flashing, like get your shit together and lose some weight. Right? Yeah. That's my threshold. So, I mean, I would much rather have a leaner, lighter, you know, pound for pound, you know, more aesthetically physique that way versus the just pure bulk and sheer mass. Like that's not interesting to me one little bit. You know? So it really depends on what you're training for and what it is your ultimate end goal is. But that was a great answer. And again, I thought it was a good one for you because you're living it. You're doing it.
Well, thank you.
Right. We're going to get ready and clue this up. So, Jeff, thank you so much for joining in. I always enjoy having a video chat with you, and you add a lot of value, and it's always fun to connect. So, thank you for that. And we are going to clue it up. So, just want to give you another heads up. If you want to come on board with our Lose Your Gut Challenge group that we're doing starting next weekend, so the group will be launching on May 19th. Head on over to leehayward.com. The first blog post there goes into all the details of the Lose Your Gut Challenge, what it is, how it works, how you can participate, all that stuff. And again, it's free. It's a free virtual coaching program that will teach you what you need to do to get on the right track to losing your gut and sustaining it as a lifestyle and not just another quick fix, you know, go on a diet and regain it all back again type of thing. So if you want a permanent solution, head on over to leehayward.com, check out the Lose Your Gut Challenge, and sign up. All right, we're going to clue it up. Thank you again, Jeff. And where are you playing to tonight? I always ask.
I'm at Plymouth, New Hampshire, playing at the Edge of Town Tavern, and then tomorrow I'm playing at the Portsmouth Gaslight in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Gotcha. I actually, Jeff, I do have a question for you. Harvey is, as you know, joined the School of Rock, and he's taking to the drums. Like the way it is at School of Rock, they can play whatever instrument they want. So last week he actually played the keyboard, but the drums is kind of where he wants to pursue. What do you think of a Yamaha DTX electric drum set? Is that a good one? Like we've seen some on Facebook Marketplace, and we're just we're looking at an electric drum set. What's your opinion on that?
I think that sounds great, especially for a beginner drum student.
Yeah.
Electronic drums are great because you can put the headphones on and make as much noise as he wants, and you won't hear a thing. So that's nice.
Do you need an amplifier for the electric drums?
You don't. No, all you need is headphones.
Okay, so he can hear it or whatever through that.
Yeah. So you would need headphones and then plug it right in. It's cool though with the amplifier.
Right.
I mean, it's
We'll have
because
to
then
get
you
one
can.
as well, but yeah.
Yeah. Get like get like some kind of thing to play recordings, and then get an amplifier, so that way you can turn the recording on, and then turn the amplifier on, and then it's like you can play with the recording.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But those electronic drums are great because you can actually, you can go online and you can download sounds to the pads. So yeah, which is pretty neat. So and it goes direct to the module. So you could like make the pad. You could make like one of the pads sound like a cowbell, or you could have another pad sound like a wood block, or another pad sound like whatever you want.
Right. Gotcha. So it's so versatile that way.
Yeah, definitely. They're great, and the kids love them because they're a lot of fun. You can change the sounds, and they get a kick out of that.
Good, but yeah, I mean, I just wondering, like, is there any particular brand or something to look for or to stay away from? Trish found one on Facebook. It was a Yamaha DTX 450K. Again, I don't know much about the numbers, but I would
send it to me and I'll take a look at it. The Cadillac of electronic drums is Roland. That's the best brand. But like a lot of those are like over $1,000.
Yeah,
for a beginner,
for a 6-year-old just starting.
Yeah, right. For a beginner, he's gonna love anything you get him. So get him something just to get him started.
Sure. All right, I will email you that link, and so you can check it out. But thanks, appreciate that.
Of course.
And with that being said, we're going to close it up. So where is it? Portland, New Hampshire, you say we're playing?
Plymouth and Portsmouth.
There you go. Okay. One of these days, someone's going to come up to you and say, I've seen you on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to close it up. Anyway, guys, have yourself a good one. Thanks for joining in. And we'll be back here same time next week with another, I was going to say another Lose Your Gut Challenge, but that's when we'll be actually kicking off the Lose Your Gut Challenge next week, but with another live Q&A for the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video channel. All right. Take care. Over and out.